Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. My name is Eleonora, I'm a registered migration agent in Perth and my agency is Green Wings Migration. Today I want to discuss with you about DAMAs again. Yes, you know, if you've been following the channel for a while, you surely understood by now that I'm very fond of sponsorship programs and in particular DAMA programs when they can actually help and sustain and support to develop a person to develop their migration pathway when other migration pathways are not available or they're being scrapped by the table of opportunities for them. And I do believe that sponsorships in general, not necessarily only DAMA, do offer better opportunities compared to skill visas. Okay, I do believe that they offer more stability for sure, more certainty, and I also think that the department likes them more compared to skill visas. And in fact, we have seen in the recent, the beginning of the new financial year, that the number of places available for skill visas has been reduced, and the one for employer-sponsored visas have been increased as well. If you follow the channel, and if you don't do it, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do it please, because you will always receive updates and information when we produce new content. You would have seen previous videos about DAMAs. So what is a DAMA? A DAMA is essentially a sponsorship, okay? So it's a two-tier sponsorship where the first part is a negotiation between the local government in a certain part of Australia and the Department of Home Affairs. The Department of Home Affairs allows these specific regions to enter into an agreement to allow the employers working in the region to sponsor people under better conditions. And then the second part of the DAMA is where the local government approves an employer to enter into the agreement as well. And from there onwards, the employer can actually nominate and sponsor skilled workers. Why are DAMAs better than other migration pathways? And bear in mind, I'm not saying that an employer should use always a DAMA over a regular migration pathway. I'm just saying that in certain specific circumstances, location, occupation, age, skill profile, different variables, DAMAs could be a better option. The better option is connected to the fact that there is a broader list of occupations that can be accessed through DAMAs, that in most cases the employer can negotiate a lower salary to pay you. And now I know that this may not sound okay in your ears, but at the same time, consider an employer who really needs to sponsor someone that on average in the market would be paid way less than the $73,000 that you should receive under a normal sponsorship. If they have the possibility to reduce the amount of salary they must pay you, they would probably be more inclined to offer you a sponsorship, therefore to open up an opportunity for you to actually get a sponsor visa in Australia. And another concession that is very often available under DAMAs is the possibility for you as the migrant to obtain a visa even above the age of 45 years old, which is normally considered the cutoff age for many work visas, especially permanent residency visa. So there are many positive aspects when considering a DAMA that definitely it's worth discussing with your employer, with your registered migration agent, when you plan to develop your migration pathway to Australia. So right now there are 13 DAMAs available all around Australia. So options are really endless right now. And something that is particularly interesting evaluating in this specific moment is how DAMAs can become helpful for you if you have been affected by the recent changes around 482 visas. So we did a video about it, and we will definitely do another one very soon, but just to give you in a nutshell what happened. 482 sponsored visas, previously called TSS, temporary skill shortage, has been replaced by 482 visa SID, skills in demand. The skills in demand visa is another sponsorship that's given, but it refers to just one list of occupations. That Australia loves occupation list. So if you are going to apply for a 482 SID visa, you will refer to the core skills occupation list. This core occupation list has 400 something occupations on it. reduced from 600 something that were previously available on the 3 combined skill occupation list: short term, medium term, and regional term. So obviously there are 200 people whose occupation is no longer on the list, which means they can no longer obtain a 482 SID visa. Some of these occupations are extremely common. They are, for example, restaurant manager, conference and events organizer, fitness center manager. So, some of the most commonly used occupations when it comes to sponsor visas. The fact that these occupations have been removed from the list for 482 SID visa in the core stream list doesn't mean they cannot be used for a labor agreement stream. And guess what? A DAMA is a labor agreement. So if you are a restaurant manager in Australia, don't despair. You still have apparently 13 odd opportunities all around the country to obtain a sponsorship opportunity, to get your visa and use this visa to achieve your permanent residency. I also created a list of occupations that are very commonly used in DAMAs. And our aim is to create different videos, and in every video we will discuss the opportunity for each of these occupations. So it's going to be a long series of videos. We will try to produce once a week, maybe twice a week as well, and we will cover all the most common occupations used. Then obviously, if you are listening and you're a subscriber, please feel free to send us a message asking to discuss your specific occupation if you see that is not in the list that I'm about to read. So obviously we will try to accommodate all these requests. So just to give you a little bit of an overview, the occupations that we will try to discuss belong to the hospitality and tourism industry, in particular chef, cook, restaurant manager, waiter, and bar attendants. Then we have options for the agriculture and farming, including farmhand, horticulturalist, and agricultural technician. We have options in the health and aged care industry, nurses, disability support workers, age support workers. We have options in the trade and construction industry, with occupations like carpenter, welder, plumber, electrician, and mechanics. Transport and logistics, truck drivers. There are so many truck drivers that are trying to migrate to Australia, and sometimes they find closed doors when they understand that migrating and migration pathways for them is not as common or not as easy. Forklift operators as well. In the childcare and education sector, we have early childhood educators, although this occupation has been benefited by the recent changes on the 482 visa. So for these people, it might as well worth exploring a normal migration pathway. And then we obviously have technology and engineering industry with civil engineers and ICT technicians and engineers in general. And then we also have our fitness center managers and, surprisingly, teachers of English to speakers of other languages. So this occupation is a mouthful, but essentially is people who are English teachers and would like to teach English to people who are non-English speakers. And this occupation has been removed by the recent 482 changes, so we will try to see if there are options for them in the DAMA sphere. So for today, the lucky winner of today's analysis is the restaurant manager, right? So unfortunately, I do have many clients who are restaurant managers who have been caught out by the recent changes in legislation. And yes, there were a little bit of suggestions since the beginning of the year because this occupation had been flagged for evaluation and possible removal from the list, but so were chefs. And nobody would have really imagined that at the end of these consultations, a thriving industry sector such as hospitality and tourism would have been negatively impacted by such a profound change. But they did it. So that's the situation we have to deal with at the moment. So in our role as advisors and consultants, we have to come up with solutions for our clients. The solutions we identified are essentially using other visa options available. I mean, it's not rocket science. We cannot create visas, but we can only give you guidance to develop your eligibility towards a different visa pathway that still exists. The most common thing to do would be to transition to a 494 visa, which is another sponsorship in the regional areas, or alternatively, aim to develop eligibility for invitation in the skilled visa spheres. Now, I told you at the beginning, I am not a strong believer of the skilled visas. I think they are hard to get, they don't give any certainty, but they are an opportunity. So if you have the possibility to lodge an expression of interest for a skilled visa, do so, be proactive, and maybe you will receive an invitation. However, if we still want to try to achieve a sponsorship visa with a little bit of easier criteria, then DAMAs come handy. These are the DAMAs available in in Australia, including some in WA, of course. And these are the DAMAs where restaurant managers could potentially explore options for a sponsorship. So we have Regional South Australia, East Kimberley, WA, Southwest WA, Pilbara, WA, Western Australia metro area, the famous Perth DAMA, Far North Queensland, Townsville, Queensland, Goulburn Valley in Victoria, Great South Coast in Victoria, Northern Territory, and Orana, New South Wales. So, I mean, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 DAMAs out of 13 available that could provide you with an opportunity to apply for a sponsorship. I mean, it's pretty good, isn't it? All of these DAMAs obviously have different criteria, or ask you to meet different criteria. So we will give you a copy of this table chart, okay? So you can download it and you can check specifically what is requested in each of the different areas. But today I just want to give you an overview of what looks like to be the common factor across all states and territories for their DAMA programs. Sure enough, most of them require a skills assessment, right? So a skills assessment is a confirmation by a designated authority, which 9 times out of 10 is VET-assess, that you are able to do what you claim to be able to do. So if you present yourself as a restaurant manager, but your previous experience has always been as a waiter, for example, VET-assess is there to say, no, you cannot proceed as a restaurant manager, you have to apply under the waiter position, okay? And the criteria that VET-assess, I mean, the different options that VET-assess offers you to demonstrate your abilities are normally quite broad. So they give you several different options to show that you can actually be a restaurant manager. Majority of cases, they do require you to combine qualifications and work experience. And when it happens, obviously qualification in hospitality and work experience in restaurant managing. So there needs to be a connection. In most cases, when you pass the criteria for the skills assessment, you are almost certain to have the required criteria for the visa application as well. And this is because the skills assessment, it's the very first bar that you must pass in order to show your eligibility for the visa. So if they already say yes, potentially 99% of cases, it would be a yes for your visa as well. Or at least as far as your qualifications assessment and experience assessment are concerned. There may be other issues along the way, but from your skill profile, you should kind of be sorted. In certain cases, the skills assessment may not be required unless it is compulsory under a normal migration pathway. And the good thing for restaurant managers is that under normal migration pathways, skills assessment, it's only compulsory for visa 494. So if you aim for a visa 482, you might not need to pass a skills assessment, especially if you aim for WA DAMA, for example, in the Perth metro area. Another criterion that seems to be fairly common amongst all of these is having at least 1 year of work experience. Now, again, different DAMAs, different criteria. So some DAMAs want your experience to be full-time in the last 5 years. Some DAMAs are happy for you to simply show 20 hours a week, so part-time basis experience, as long as it is highly relevant. So again, as a restaurant manager, not as a waiter, not as a floor supervisor, it has to be consistent, okay? And then some DAMAs also conduct an internal skills assessment procedure. So you apply through the DAMA directly, and they will evaluate your profile, your skills at the initial government level. When it comes to qualifications, in most cases, it is required that you already have a qualification from overseas, and this qualification must be comparable to the Australian standard. And for restaurant managers, we're normally talking about a diploma in hospitality manager or higher qualifications, so even advanced diploma, bachelor degree, and so on and so forth. Sometimes when you obtain your qualification in Australia, then they will ask you to show less work experience, because the assumption is that if you studied here, you have already been taught the way, the standard that Australia expects people to be equivalent to. So you might need to demonstrate a lower amount of experience because you wouldn't have had to develop your skills so much on the job. It's state by state basis, it's DAMA by DAMA base as well. So it is really a matter of checking each individual DAMA, what they want from you, what you need to demonstrate for them. English-wise, across all these DAMAs, well, it's fairly easy. So we're normally talking about an English level that's vocational, so 5. And sometimes it's even less than that. It's functional, so 5 average, but then you don't really have any minimum to meet in the individual band score of the IELTS test or the PTE test. How long is the sponsorship for? Again, across all boards, the 482 visa can be granted for up to 4 years, and you are normally requested to work 2 years for your sponsor to transition to permanent residency, unless you are very close to a metropolitan area, for example, Perth, where you will be requested to stay 3 years with your employer. This is because, more people live in the city, so they really want to try to keep people working in their occupation for as long as possible. Alternatively, if you've gotten your DAMA through a 494 visa, then the visa is for 5 years. After 3 years, to apply for your 191 permanent residency. So again, this is in a nutshell what is required for you if you are a restaurant manager. If you can no longer apply for your normal sponsorship through the 482 SID visa, if you don't yet have the criteria for a regular 494, if you live in the metropolitan area, you'll need to move to the regions in order to access the DAMA, and also if you are not a good candidate for a skill visa. So consider a DAMA option, explore the 13, or I should say 11 in this case, areas that could offer you a DAMA pathway. See if there is any of these regions that you may see yourself settling into, because this is a long-term commitment. It's not something that gives you permanent residency overnight, so you really need to be happy and content to move there and stay there for a while. And if you find yourself fit somewhere, then obviously reach out to us. We will be very happy to evaluate your profile, to establish your eligibility for a DAMA pathway. If we do have contacts in the area, we might connect you with them and see if you can develop a relationship, a work relationship with them as well. Although remember that we are not a recruitment company, so we do not offer job recruitment and linking job services. And yeah, that's it for today. If you have any questions, just feel free to send us an email, send us direct messages, follow us on our social channels, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.